Welcome back, Crammers, to question 1. The diagram shows a square and its diagonal. Shade 1/4 of the square. We can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, and we only have to shade in one of those sides. Here is a rhombus. What fraction of the rhombus is shaded? Again, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 sides over 1, 2, 3, which are shaded. So this gives us 3 over 4. Write 0.9 as a fraction. We can simply write 9 divided by 10. Question 2. Here is a list of numbers. From the list of numbers, write down a cube number. So we can see here that 8 is simply 2 cubed. A factor of 70. So anything 70 is a multiple of. Here we have 14. And 70 can be divided by 14. So we can write here 14. A multiple of 6. 6 times 5 is equal to 30. So that means 6 is a multiple of 30. And a prime number. So a prime number, it can only be divided by themselves and 1. And for that, we have 3. Here's a number machine. Work out the input when the output is 108. So that means an unknown times 5 plus 3 is equal to 108. So we can bring 3 to the other side. We have 5x is equal to 108 minus 3 is 105. And then that means when we divide both sides by 5, we have x is equal to 21. So the input is 21. Question 3. The diagram shows a fair 8-sided spinner. Holly is going to spin the spinner once. Write down the word from the box above that best describes the likelihood that the spinner will land on yellow. We can see that yellow only happens once as opposed to the 8 sides. So this is unlikely. Red. We can see that red happens 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the possible 8 times. And this is 1 over 2 or 50-50 split, which means it is an evens. On the probability scale below, mark with a cross X the probability that the spinner will land on blue. However, blue is not on the spinner, so this is not possible. Question 4. The table below shows the maximum recorded temperature and the minimum recorded temperature on one day in each of 4 countries. Which country has the highest maximum recorded temperature? So if you look at the maximum recorded temperature table, we can see that the highest goes to 21, which is Qatar. So we can write here Qatar. Work out the difference between the maximum recorded temperature in Finland and the minimum recorded temperature in Finland. So we can see that it's between these two values. We can write negative 19 minus negative 28. This just becomes plus, so negative 19 plus 28 is equal to 9 degrees Celsius. On the same day, the minimum recorded temperature in Japan is 15 degrees lower than the minimum recorded temperature in Morocco. Work out the minimum recorded temperature in Japan. So the minimum recorded temperature in Morocco is 11 degrees. So 11 minus 15 gives us negative 4 degrees Celsius. Question 5. The diagram shows points A and B marked on a grid of squares. On the grid, draw the line with equation y equals negative 2. So we simply look for negative 2 on the y-axis, and we draw a line perpendicular to negative 2. M is a midpoint of AB. Find the coordinates of M. To find the midpoint, it's simply x2 plus x1 divided by 2 and y2 plus y1 divided by 2. We can see here that the x for A is negative 3 plus the x for B, which is 1 divided by 2. And we have y, which is 1 plus 3 divided by 2. Negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. D is a point with coordinates 5D where D is greater than 0. The triangle ABD is an isosceles triangle. Find the value of D. So, an isosceles triangle has 2 equal sides. Note that the x-axis is given as 5 and D is greater than 0. So that means it is somewhere along this line. D is somewhere along this line. And since these two sides have to be equal, that means side A to B has to be equal to side B to D, which means that D is 1. Question 6. Here are 9 shapes drawn on a grid of squares. Shape D is a quadrilateral. What is the name of this quadrilateral? So we can see that one of the sides is slanted, both of the bases are parallel to each other, so this has to be a trapezium. Trapezium. One of the shapes is congruent to shape G. So this one, write down the letter of this shape. So we can see that all the other shapes, only one looks like G but is simply rotated. Note how the base is 2 for G and the base for F is also 2. So we can simply write here that F is congruent to G. Write down the order of rotational symmetry for shape H. So shape H can be rotated this way and still be symmetrical. It can be rotated this way and still be symmetrical, this way as well, and this way as well. So that makes a total of 4 different times. How many lines of symmetry has shape E? Well, shape E has 1 and 2 lines of symmetry. So we can write here 2. Question 7. 3/8 of the members of a squash club are children. 5/6 of these children are right-handed. What fraction of the members of the squash club are right-handed children? Give your answer as a fraction in simplest form. Show you're working clearly. So we have 3/8 of a squash club, and to find out 5/6 of these children are right-handed, we can simply multiply by 5/6. We can simplify in this by find the lowest common factor of 3 and 6, which is 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. And we can continue. 1 times 5 is 5. And 8 times 2 is 16. Since we can't simplify this anymore, this is our simplest answer. Question 8. By writing each value correct to one significant figure, work out an estimate for the value of 8.23 times 181 divided by 0.482. Show you're working clearly. So we can see that 8.23 can just be written as 8. And 181 to one significant figure means we round up to 200. And again here, since 8 is here, we can round this up to 0.5. And we can see that 8 times 200 is 1,600 divided by 0.5. We can simplify this by multiplying both sides by 2 to get rid of the denominator, times 2 times 2. So this equals 3,200 divided by 1, or simply 3,200. Question 9. The diagram shows triangle ABD. Angle CBD is 132 degrees and angle ADB is 58 degrees. Work out the value of x. Since I can see that it is vertically opposite to 58, I know that x is just 58 degrees. Give a reason for your answer. Well, it is vertically opposite. Moving on, work out the value of y. Since this is an isosceles triangle, we can see that this angle y is also here, angle y. And now that we have a straight line here, we know that a straight line is 180 degrees. 132 is taken, so we can simply find y to be 180 is equal to y plus 132. We can bring this to the other side, and we have y is equal to 180 minus 132, and that gives us 74 degrees. 74 degrees. Question 10. In the library, there are 2 trolleys of books. On trolley 1, the subjects of the books are buildings, B, rivers, R, and space, S. On trolley 2, the subjects of the books are buildings, B, history, H, and animals, A. Tomos takes 1 book from trolley 1 and 1 book from trolley 2. Write all the possible configurations of the subjects that Tomos can take. So we can see here on trolley 1, he can take buildings, and then on trolley 2, he can take buildings again. Then he can choose buildings, and he can choose history instead. Again, he can choose buildings and animals. Then he could choose something else entirely for trolley 1. He can choose rivers. So he can choose rivers and buildings, rivers and history, rivers and animals. Again, he can choose space as well. So we have space in buildings, space in history, And finally, space and animals. Question 11. Here's a sequence of patterns made from counters. Pattern number 1 has 3 counters. Pattern number 2 has 6. Pattern number 3 has 9. In the space below, draw pattern number 4. We can see that in each ascending pattern, we can see that there is plus 3, plus 3. So we can assume that pattern number 4 is simply 9 plus 3, which is supposed to be 12. So we can draw here 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3. Complete the table. Pattern number 1, 2, 3 are given, but pattern number 4 and 5 are not given. Pattern number 4 we already found to be 12. As said before, we simply add 3, so 3 plus 12 is 15. Work out the number of counters in pattern number 10. We can use the formula A plus N minus 1D. A is the first term of the sequence, which is 3, plus N is the number we're trying to find. So we're trying to find number 10 in the sequence. So 10 minus 1. And difference is simply 3. So we have 3 plus 10 minus 1, that's 9. 9 times 3 is 27. 27 plus 3 is 30. Sven has exactly 70 counters. Can Sven make the pattern number 25 using his 70 counters? Tick the appropriate box below. No. Why is this? Because 70 is not a multiple of 3, and we can see that it will always be a multiple of 3. 3, 6, 9, 12, and 15. So we can write here 70 is not a multiple of 3. Question 12. The diagram shows a box C and a carton C. The box B is in the shape of a cuboid, while the carton C is in the shape of an 8 by 8 centimeter cube. Martha is going to put as many cartons as possible into the box, considering she has enough cartons to do this. Martha would then fill the remaining space inside the box with packing material, work out the volume of space inside the box that Martha will fill in with packing material. So that means she can put in as many cartons as she wants into the box, but there will be a leftover space afterwards. She will then fill this with packing, and this is the volume that we are supposed to find. First off, we can see that the cuboid does not contain enough multiples for 8. Firstly, we can see here that the length is 60 and the length for the carton is 8. We know that 60 is not a multiple of 8, but the closest one is 56. 56 is 8 times 7. Now, that means that we can fit 7 boxes like this. But there will be a space left over, and that's okay. Moving on, we have 20. The closest multiple is 16. 16 is essentially 8 times 2, so we can fit 2 boxes like this, but there will be a space left over. However, 24 is a multiple of 8, so we have to leave this as 24 because 24 is just 8 times 3. So that means they can put in 3 like this. Now, moving on. Now that we know the total volume of B is given as 60 times 20 times 24, we then remove the volume of all the cartons. So that's simply 56 times 16 times 24. And that will give us the space left over. Now, whatever space is left over, she will then put in the packing material. So here we have 60 times 20 times 24 minus 56 times 16 times 24 gives us 7296. 7296, 7296 centimeters cubed. Question 13. Here is the conversion graph to change between Canadian dollars and pounds. Use the graph to change 46 Canadian dollars to pounds. Canadian dollars is given on the x-axis. Halfway between 40 and 50 will be 45. And one after that is 46. We draw a line perpendicular to this value. And then we draw a line perpendicular again until it meets the y-axis. It's halfway between 20 and 30, so that has to be 25. 10 pounds to Canadian dollars. Pounds is given on the left-hand side, and we simply draw a line perpendicular to 10 until it meets the line. Then we draw a line perpendicular again. That's 20 minus 2, so that's 18. Alana is on holiday in London and is going to Paris. She's going to book a hotel in Paris. She knows that 1 pound is equivalent to 1.2 euros. Change 528 euros to Canadian dollars. Canadian dollars is not given in this equation, but it is given in the graph. So we can simply convert the euros to pounds first. So we know that 528 divided by 1.2 will give us our amount of pounds. We can see that 528 divided by 1.2 gives us 440 pounds. 440 pounds. Now, 440 on the y-axis is not given, so we have to simplify here. First off, we can divide 440 by 20, and we can see that 440 divided by 20 gives us 22. The reason we're doing this is because we're trying to make it fit within the graph. This is merely an estimate. So 440 divided by 20 gives us 22 right here, 22 pounds. If we can find out what that value is, if we draw a line perpendicular and perpendicular again, we can see that it is roughly 40 Canadian dollars. But remember, this is a bigger value, so we have to multiply by 40. So we have here 400, we have 440 divided by 20 times 40 gives us 880 Canadian dollars. 880 Canadian dollars. Question 14. A man walked for 3 hours and 15 minutes. That is our time. He walked the distance of 18.2 kilometers. So that is our distance. Work out Imam's average speed for his walk. Give your answer in kilometers per hour. So that is simply distance by time. However, we can see that it's asking per hour and we have minutes here. We know that 60 minutes is equivalent to 1 hour. So that means here that 15 divided by 60 will give us our percentage of hours. Now, we can simply rewrite this since the distance is already given. We write 18.2 divided by, we're already given 3 hours, plus 15 over 60 hours. So we can put this into a calculator now. We can see that we have 18.2 divided by 3 plus 15 over 60 gives us 5.6. 5.6 kilometers per hour. Question 15. Here is a list of ingredients needed to make 12 chocolate brownies. Talia buys exactly enough for these ingredients to make 120 of these brownies. 1.5 kilograms of flour costs 1.3 pounds. 500 grams of chocolate spread costs 2.6 pounds. 6 eggs cost 1.1 pounds. Talia sells 120 brownies at 0.4 pounds each. Work out the profit she makes. Profit is new minus old. Now, we can already find what new is because she sells 120 brownies at 0.4 each. So we can calculate 120 times 0.4 gives us 48. So that means the new value that she sells is at 48 pounds. Now, we have to calculate what the old value is. We can see that the ingredients list only gives for 12 brownies, but she makes 120. So 120 divided by 12 is 10. So that means everything in here we multiply by 10. So instead of 150 grams of flour, she actually makes 1,500 grams of flour. 250 times 10 is 2,500, and 3 times 10 is 30. Now, moving on, we know that 1.1 kilograms of flour costs 1.3 pounds. 1 kilogram is equivalent to 1,000 grams. So we can see here that this is actually 1,500 grams, costs 1.3 pounds. 1,500 divided by 1,500 is simply 1. So 1 times 1.3 is simply 1.3. Moving on, we have 500 grams of chocolate spread costs 2.6. We have 2,500. So we can calculate here We have 2,500 divided by 500. That's 5 times 2.6 gives us 13. So we have 13. Moving on to the last and final one. 6 eggs cost 1.1 pounds. Instead, we have 30 eggs, so we can just see 30 divided by 6 should give us 5 is equal to 5. And then we multiply by 1.1, which gives us 5.5. 5.5. We can then combine all of this. So we have 1.3 plus 13 plus 5.5 means she spent 19.8 pounds, 19.8 pounds in order to create all the brownies. Now we can find what the profit is because we have new minus old. So profit is equal to new minus old. We already have new, which is 48, and we have old, which is 19.8. So that means profit can be calculated as 48 minus 19.8 gives us 28.2. 28.2 pounds. 28.2 pounds. Question 16. Expand and simplify x into 2x minus 3 plus 7 into 2x plus 1 minus 5 according to bid mass. We deal with brackets first. So we can see that we have polynomials here, and when multiplying polynomials, we multiply it to everything inside. So 2x times x is 2x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. Then moving on, we have 7 times 2x, so that's 14x. 7 times 1, so that's 7. Then we have negative 5. So right here, negative 5. Now that we're done with brackets, indices, a division, and multiplication, we can then move on to addition and then subtraction. So here, we should put all like terms together. We have 2x squared. Negative 3x plus 14x is 11x. And plus 5 minus 5 is plus 2. So our final answer is 2x squared plus 11x plus 2. Expand and simplify. Now, here we're going to be using FOIL method. And FOIL stands for first, O stands for outside, I is inside, and L is last. We can see that for first, we have y times 2, so that's 2y. Outside is y times negative y, so that's negative y squared. Inside is 4 times 2, so that's 8. And last is 4 times negative y, so that's negative 4y. We can then combine the like terms. Here we just have negative y squared, so we can write that, negative y squared. Negative 4 plus 2y is negative 2y. And then we have 8 plus 8. Factorize fully 15b to the power of 5c minus 35b cubed times c to the power of 9. First off, we can see that 15 and 35 are both divisible by 5. Then we can see that b and c are both present in both equations, so we can simply write the highest power. Here we have b to the power of 5 and b to the power of 3. So instead of writing the highest power, we can write the smallest one. So we have b to the power of 3. And then we have c to the power of 1 and c to the power of 9. So you write c to the power of 1. Now we can go on and divide this. 15 divided by 5 is 3. B to the power of 5 divided by b to the power of 3 is the same as b to the power of 5 minus 3. So we have b to the power of 5 divided by b to the power of 3. So that is equal to b to the power of 2. And since c is already given, c divided by c is 1. 1 stays the same, so we don't write that. Now, moving on. 35 divided by 5 gives us 7. B cubed divided by b cubed is simply 1, so we don't write that. C to the power of 9 divided by c to the power of 1 is c to the power of 9 minus 1, which is just 8. So that means our final answer is 5b cubed c times 3b squared minus 7c to the power of 8. Question 17. Show that 6 3 over 4 divided by 2 4 over 7 is equal to 2 5 over 8. We can change this from mixed fractions to improper fractions by multiplying the whole number with the denominator and adding that to the numerator. 6 times 4 is 24. 24 plus 3 is 27. We write the same denominator, which is 4, divided by 2 times 7 is 14. 14 plus 4 is 18, divided by same denominator, which is 7, is equal to 2 5 over 8. Now, instead of dividing fractions, we can find the reciprocal of the second fraction and multiply instead. So we have 27 divided by 4. 18 over 7 flipped is just 7 over 18 is equal to 2 5 over 8. Now we can find the highest common factor between 27 and 18, which is 9. So 27 divided by 9 is 3, and 18 divided by 9 is 2. Now we can freely multiply. 3 times 7 is 21, and 4 times 2 is 8, is equal to 2 5 over 8. Now we have to change this back into a mixed fraction, and we can see that the highest multiple of 8 just before 21 is 16. 16 divided by 8 is 2. 21 minus 16 is 5, and we simply write the denominator as 8 is equal to 2 5 over 8. Question 18. Triangle ABC is similar to triangle PQR. Calculate the length of BC. We can use the rule of similarity to see that BC divided by A to B, which is 4, is equivalent to this side of the similar triangle, RQ, 16.5, divided by PQ, which is 12. Multiply both sides by 4 to remove the denominator. Multiply by 4. This cancels out. And we're left with BC is equivalent to 16.5 divided by 3. We can then use a calculator here. We have 16.5 divided by 3 gives us 5.5 centimeters. And write down an expression for y in terms of x. We can use the exact same rule. We can see that y here, y divided by PQ, which is 12, is equivalent to x divided by 4. Multiply both sides by 12 to remove the denominator. Multiply by 12. This cancels out. So this is simply 3 times x. So y is equal to 3x. Question 19. Each side of a regular octagon has a length of 18 millimeters. Correct to the nearest 0.5 millimeters. Write down the lower bound of the length of each side of the octagon. Since it says it's correct to the nearest 0.5 millimeters, we divide this by 2 and we get 0.25. Why is this important? In order to find the lower bound, we simply write 18 minus 0.25, and that gives us 17.75. Moving on, write down the upper bound of the length of each side, and again, we have 18 and upper bound is positive, so we write positive, and we write 0.25. So again, we get 18.25, and that is our final answer. Question 20. The scale diagram shows the position on a map of a house A. Scale is 1 centimeter, represents 200 meters. House C is on a bearing of 110 degrees from A. The distance from A to C is 700 meters. Mark the position of C on the diagram with a cross. Label your cross C. So first off, we can say that it's 110 degrees. So it's somewhere in this direction, but we don't know what length. We can see that 700 divided by 200 gives us 3.5. So it is equivalent to 3.5 centimeters. So we simply draw this out. 1, 2, 3.5. And we simply draw a cross and we label this C. This is also 110 degrees. And write the scale of the map in the form 1 is to n. So we already know that it's 1 centimeter is to 200 meters. We just have to convert everything into one format. And since it's asking 1 already given, that means that centimeters remain centimeters. Convert 200 meters to centimeters. So a meter is equivalent to 100 centimeters. So we multiply this by 100. So we get 1 centimeter is equivalent to 20,000 centimeters. 20,000. Question 21. A bag contains only pink, white, green, and red sweets. The table gives each of the probabilities that when a sweet is taken at random from the bag, the sweet will be green or the sweet will be red. Pink and white are not given. The ratio of number of pink sweets to the number of white sweets are already given. So we can deduct this as 1 whole is 1. And if we're able to subtract the probability of green and red, we'll find the probability of pink and white. So 1 minus 0.2 minus 0.35. That's the same as 1 minus 0.55. So we're left with 0.45. Now, if we can find the sum of the ratios, which is 3, we can then divide this by 3 and multiply it by the value we desire. So we have here, okay, 0.45 divided by 3 is 0.15. 0.15 times 1 is our number of white sweets. So 0.15 times 1 is just 0.15. And 0.15 times 2 is 0.30. Now that we have the probabilities, we can see that 28 red sweets is equivalent to 0.35. Work out the number of white sweets in the bag. So we have 28 red sweets is equivalent to 0.35. Now, to find the number of white sweets, we don't know how many white sweets this gives us, but we know the probability is 0.15. We can multiply both sides by 0.15. This cancels out times 0.15. And we have x is equal to 28 divided by 0.35 times 0.15. And we can use our calculator. We have 28 divided by 0.35, which is then multiplied by 0.15, which gives us 12. In total, there are 12 white sweets in the bag. Question 22. Find the LCM of 28, 42, and 63. Show you're working clearly. We can write them out here. 28, 42, and 63. Now, I can see that they're all divisible by 7. So 28 divided by 7 is 4. 42 divided by 7 is 6. And 63 divided by 7 is 9. Now, I can see we have a couple of square numbers here and we have to eliminate that. Why? Because in the end, when we try to find the LCM and we combine the values, we can see that 4 is 2 to the power of 2 and 9 is 3 to the power of 2. So in the end, we'd have 7 times 4 times 6 times 9 divided by 2 times 3. So these would actually cancel out. This makes 2 and this makes 3. So we can make our lives easier by simply writing these values alone. So we have 7 times 2 times 6 times 3. Now we can use our calculator here. We have 7 times 2 times 6 times 3 gives us 252. 252. Question 23. The table gives information about the average house price in England in 2018 and 2019. Work out the percentage increase between the houses of 2018 and 2019, giving your answer correct to 1 decimal place. To find the percentage increase, it's simply new minus old divided by old times new. Now, the new value is 231,776. The old value is 228,314. We divide this by the old value, which is 228,314, and we multiply this all to 100, and we can put this into a calculator. We have 231,776 subtract 228,314 divided by 228,314, which we then multiply to 100. That gives us 1.51 is equivalent to 1.51. And since it's to 1 decimal place, the value after that is 1, so we round down. And we have 1.5%. The average house price in 2019 was 7.7% greater than the average house price in 2017. Work out the average house price in 2017. Give your answer correct to 3 significant figures. So the average house price in 2019 was 231,776. We have to divide this by 7.7 greater than the average house price, so that's simply 7.7 plus 100. And since it's given in percentage, we divide by 100. So 7.7 plus 100 is equal to 107.7 divided by 100. And then we divide by 100, so that's 1, 2. So we have 1.077. So we divide by 1.077, and we can put this into a calculator here. We have 231,776 divided by 1.077. That gives us, correct to three significant figures, 215,205, 215,205, correct to three significant figures, so that's this. And since it's 2, we round down, so we have 215,000. Question 24. The frequency table gives information about the number of points scored per player. The mean number of points scored is 2. Work out the value of x. So we know that the mean is simply total divided by quantity. And at the same time, if we multiply both sides by quantity, we can find what the total is. So total is mean times quantity as well. Okay? So now we can find out what x is only by finding the total. So the total is the number of points times frequency. So we have 0 times 13 plus 1 times 17 plus 2 times 8 plus 3 times x plus 4 times 11. So if we simplify this cancels out to 0, plus 1 times 17, 17, plus 2 times 8 is 16, plus 3x, plus 4 times 11 is 44. So when we combine all this, we get 3x plus 77. Now, moving on, we can then find what the quantity is. And since we already know what the mean is, we can make an equation. So if this is total, we have to find what quantity is. So quantity is simply 13 plus 17 plus 8 plus x plus 11. So our quantity is 49 plus x. And now that we have our total and our quantity, we can then use this equation. So we have 3x plus 77 divided by x plus 49 is equal to, and our mean is 2, so we write here 2. We can multiply both sides by x plus 49, multiply, this cancels out, times x plus 49. So that gives us 3x plus 77 is equivalent to 2x plus 49 times 2 is 98. And then we bring all the like terms together, so we can bring 2x here and 77 to the other side. We have 3x minus 2x is equal to 98 minus 77. So we have x is equal to 21. 21. Question 25. Solve the simultaneous equation. Show clear algebraic working. Here we're going to be using substitution method, where we isolate one variable and substitute it into the other equation. To substitute y, we simply bring 6x to the other side. So we have 3y is equal to 3.75 minus 6x. Divide both sides by 3 to isolate y. And we have y is equal to 3.75 divided by 3 is 1.25. Minus 6 divided by 3 is 2x. Now that we have y, we can substitute it into this equation to find what x is. So we have 3x plus 5 into y, which we found to be 1.25 minus 2x is equal to 3.1. Then we have 3x plus 5 times 5 times 1.25 gives us 6.25. 6.25. 5 times negative 2x is negative 10x is equal to 3.1. We can then bring 6.25 to the other side and combine the like terms. So we have 3x minus 10x is equal to 3.1 minus 6.25. We then have 3x minus 10x is negative 7x. And we have 3.1 minus 6.25 gives us negative 3.15, negative 3.15. We divide both sides by negative 7, divide by negative 7. We have x is equal to negative 3.15 divided by negative 7 gives us 0.45. 0.45. And now that we know what x is, we can input that into the original equation. So we have y is equal to 1.25 minus 2x, 1.25 minus 2 times 0.45, 1.25 minus 2 times 0.45 is 0.9. And finally, we have 1.25 minus 0.9 gives us 0.35. 0.35. 0.35. Question 26. The diagram shows a regular 10-sided polygon. Show that angle x is equal to angle y. We can use the formula for some of the interior angles, 180 times n minus 2, to prove that x is equal to y. Since there are 10 sides, there are also 10 angles. So we can write 180 times n minus 2. So there are 10 sides minus 2 divided by how many angles there are. So there are 10 because we only want to find one angle. So we have 180 times 10 minus 2 is 8 divided by 10. This cancels out and that gives us 144 degrees each. So this is 144 degrees. This is 144. This is 144. Now, we can see that there is a line going between A and G making this distinct shape. That also means that angle x here is also equal to angle x here. Now, we can then use the formula once again to find out what x is. So since we have 5 sides, we can have 180 times n minus 2, 180 times 5 minus 2, 180 times 3 is 540. So we know that 540 is comprised of 144 times 3, because it happens 3 times, plus 2x. So then we can then bring this to the other side. We can find out what 144 times 3 is first. 144 times 3 is 432. So we have 540 minus 432 is equal to 2x. We divide both sides by 2 to find out what x is. So then we can then find out our final answer. So we have 540 minus 432, which is then divided by 2, which gives us 54. X is equal to 54 degrees. So x is 54. Now, moving on, we have to find what this is. Since we know that one whole angle is 144, if we can find out what this is, we can combine it with x, subtract that in order to find y. Again, this will be 144. This will also be 144. And this is a 4-sided polygon. And we know that all 4-sided polygons contain 360 degrees in total. So we can put here 360 is equal to 2 times 144. And we don't know what this angle is, so let's call it angle Z. Angle Z. So plus 2Z. Okay? So we can find out what 144 times 2 is first. 144 times 2 is 288. So this is 360 is equal to 288 plus 2z. We can then bring 288 to the other side. So we have 2z is equivalent to 360 minus 288. Divide both sides by 2 to find out what z is. So we can then find this out to be 360 minus 288, then divide by 2 gives us 36. 36. And now that we have this angle, which is 36, we can then use one of the angles, since we know it to be 144, we can then subtract x and z. So finally, we have 144 is equal to x plus y plus z. Since we know what x is, we can write it here. It is 54. And we know what y, we don't know what y is, but we know what z is, which is 36. We can then combine the like terms. So we have 54 plus 36 gives us 90. So we have 144 is equal to 90 plus y. We can then bring 90 to the other side. We have y is equal to 144 minus 90. And we can see here that 144 minus 90 is equal to 54. Y is equal to 54. X is also equal to 54. Therefore, y is equal to x. Thanks for watching. Cram, then scram.